is how both these nations compare in the World Cup. Canada have played in it 3 times, South Africa have played in it 4 times. South Africa have had 3 wins, Canada only 1 win, and they're both appearing in their first ever knockout round of a World Cup. Who do we think the pressure is on going into this one, Witty? Do we think it's South Africa or Canada?
I still think it's on Canada, just on the basis of them being one of the host nations. They would have expected to have a deeper run in the tournament. They would have hoped that it would be in Vancouver as a group winner, playing back-to-back home games. Instead, they've got to go to Los Angeles. And I still think in the overall, I would suggest that Canada are probably a little bit better of a team, I would say, in terms of the players that they have in their squad. So South Africa, for them, on the basis of, never not having qualified as not a host nation for such a long time, for never having made the knockout round, and also how they started the tournament as well. They started shambolically against Mexico. So for everything that went against them up until their second group game, the fact that they're here is such a win. So anything from here, I think, would be a bonus. I think of any potential matchup they could have had in the knockout round, playing Canada is pretty damn ideal. But at the same time, I still think that Canada as a host nation would have expected to have done more.
I'm loving this for South Africa. I think for your opening game to be in the Azteca against Mexico and to get another host nation, but obviously not as the extent of playing in the Azteca, that they won't be in Canada. So I fancy South Africa in this game. I do. I think Canada were underwhelming against Switzerland as well, and they didn't sit in the most aggressive press that we're used to seeing from Canada. And if they do that against South Africa, by the way, and South Africa break it, they're countering them. I think I love Maseko's goal.
Yep.
Top striker, great finish. And I think if you're pressing South Africa and they break it, he's getting in behind all day.
They handle transitions really well. Out of a lot of the teams that we've seen try and do these transitions, especially in this heat, South Africa have looked really good, especially in the last 2 games. Just what they've showcased and being able to be, I would say, quite brave in certain aspects. There's a kind of an element of a freedom when they're all sort of going in a very much in a purposeful manner. Now, what's interesting about it is when I look at Jesse Marsch, he is the type of person that his formations, he tries to put you into boxes and squeeze you and make you almost not be able to handle or not get out in transitions. So you're going to see a really good tactical battle between the 2 coaches in who can actually break the press, who wants to initiate the press, and when they go as well. Because the conditions, the 2 teams, and also the fact that both teams are kind of, I would say, squaring up to each other and believing that they could beat each other might make for one of the most interesting ties we've seen in the World Cup so far, because you could make a case for both teams and you can understand why Canada would have the advantages, especially being a host. But that doesn't count out what Bafana can actually do, especially in transition in the final third as well.
Yeah, definitely. We're going to bring up a vibe meter now in terms of how Canada is feeling going into this game.
I like this.
We have labelled it the names of Drake albums, just because Drake is
How many were you alive for? You're just making sure that you were alive for all of them.
I'm pretty sure I was alive for all of them.
Okay.
Right, so let's go through these categories.
Man, I'm old.
I'll read them out to you, Jaydee.
Oh, yeah, I can't even see that.
So the first one, What a Time to Be Alive.
Oh, great album.
More Life.
Okay.
For All the Dogs. So Far Gone.
Oh, classic.
Nothing Was the Same.
Definite classic.
And Honestly, Nevermind.
Yeah, you can honestly never mind all of that as well.
But can I just say, I think Honestly, Nevermind was my favourite album.
Shock you would say that, because that's why I know when you became a Drake fan last year. Yeah, when Drake jumps on TikTok, that's when you jumped on.
Nothing Was the Same.
I see.
Now, this is not rating the calibre of the album. This is rating how the Canadian national team is feeling right now. Let's not get this mixed up.
Okay. I want to, because the Canadians turn around and use the words for the dog them, I want to say it's for the dog them, just because I've seen things that are really good about what Canada have done so far. There's things that they probably want to still improve upon. I think their head coach is really energetic, really honest as well with the media and also probably with his players on top of it, so you know there's a real basis. But the only reason why I'm saying for the dog them is because I believe that was one of Drake's sleeper albums, and I think there's still another gear to go when I think about this Canada team and the unlocking of Davies, especially when he actually does ignite in this tournament, and his fitness concerns and where he's going to be is going to be a massive thing and a massive feature for how good this team could be, because I still believe they can go up another gear, and that's how I kind of felt about that album for the Dogs then.
Okay, lovely.
You don't remember it though, do you? Because it was only last week.
It came out, honestly, a year ago. I do remember. Okay, everybody, time to bring in athletic football correspondent Josh Kloke. Josh, I'm not sure how much Drake you know, how much Drake music you know, but on terms of where this Canadian national team is on a vibe meter, would you agree that vibes are kind of in the middle?
Yeah, I'm not much of a Drake guy. I'm more of, if we're talking, important Canadian artists. I'm more of a Neil Young guy.
Okay.
And I would say the vibes right now for
Jaydee.
Canada, if we're looking for, records as comparables, I'd say Canada right now is feeling the way of Neil Young's 1976 record, Long May You Run. Like
Nice.
this Canadian team really believe that they're just in the middle of their World Cup run. And it's interesting, like you talk about the vibe check. Every Canadian soccer writer who gathered before the tournament, we all kind of came to the same conclusion. This team feels like they're going to get 4 points in the group stage, right? If you had gotten, 4 points with a loss to start, then a draw, the win, the vibes would be off the charts. But the trouble is Canada is entering the knockout round with a loss, whereas South Africa is coming in with a win. So the vibes can't really be squared right now. And I think it took a lot of effort from players yesterday to remind the media, hey, everyone, we're still in the knockout round. We're good. Like, we still accomplished one of our biggest goals, which was to get out of the group. So I think it'll take another few days to just for Canadians everywhere to be reminded of what an accomplishment this is, because right now the vibes not as good as they would have been had they finished the group stage with a win or a draw.
Josh, how big of a loss of playing at home do you think this will be for the Canadian team, or do you think that's a little bit blown out of proportion?
No, I don't. I actually think it's a massive loss. Not so much for playing at home. Yes, the crowds in Canada deserve a ton of credit, right? Especially that crowd, the second match in Vancouver, was the loudest I've ever heard a Canadian crowd. What they're really missing out on is the 7 days rest instead of just 3 days rest. That is so crucial for a Canadian team that is nursing multiple injuries, like a full week off to be with your families, many of which are in Vancouver right now. That's what really stings. And instead you have to play the first knockout round match. You have to fly to LA. So yes, you lose that home crowd advantage. And there's a lot of people in Canada that are really questioning why Canada had to win the group to stay, whereas Mexico seemed to have an easier path to stay in Mexico. But for me, it's the 7 days off. Or losing that 7 days off, that's really going to hurt Canada.
Josh, I want to kind of talk about what you just spoke about with the fitness concerns. Alphonso Davies has been reported to say that he's fully fit and ready to engage and ignite us in this competition, yet we still haven't seen that inclusion as of yet. Jesse Marsch quoted to say that I'm using him as a decoy. Just tell us a little bit more about where he stands right now, and your face tells me a lot about that response as well.
Yeah, that grimace spoke volumes, I think. Look, this has been a trying 48 hours to cover the men's national team. And the reason I say that is, Jesse Marsch is a great person, a great manager to cover. He shares a lot of information. And when Jesse Marsch says Alphonso Davies is expected to play, a lot of us in the media said, okay, well, certainly given his trajectory, feels likely that he'll play. Then Alphonso Davies doesn't even warm up with the substitutes. And what was really telling to me is Alphonso Davies then going through the mix zone after the game against Switzerland with a phone to his ear and just blowing by reporters, not saying a word. Most Canadian players will stop and talk if requested. That includes Jonathan David and Stefan Eustáquio, the vice captains. So for Alphonso Davies to do that just suggested that, at bare minimum, he wasn't happy. Then Jesse Marsch says that, he was kind of essentially, he didn't use this word, but lying to the media and saying that he was using Alphonso Davies' status as a decoy, because if Switzerland's coach can spend more time preparing for Davies, that's energy that he now, can't spend preparing for other players. I understand that, and it's Jesse Marsch's right to do that. And yesterday, Jesse Marsch spoke again, and he said, look, it's the World Cup. We're trying to get every advantage we can. And if that means, telling you're using the word decoy in the media, that's what I'm going to have to do, because our goal here is winning games. However, when that happens, it becomes a little more difficult to properly assess anything that Marsch says afterwards. Again, it's his right, it's his prerogative. Winning a knockout round game for Canada in the World Cup would be historic for this country, but it also shrouds a lot of Alphonso Davies' status in mystery right now.
Agreed, and I'm not certain it proved to be that much of an advantage in the game. But going to that game against South Africa, in terms of the players that will be available, who do you think will be the most important figure where if Canada are winning, it's because this guy is man of the match or something like that?
The same player it would have been for every match, Jonathan David, right? And until Moise Bombito returns as Canada's #1 center back, and he could, right? I think he is, on that trajectory to returning in full against South Africa. But when Jonathan David scores for Canada, good things happen. South Africa does not have an attacker of Jonathan David's quality. And yes, Jonathan David's game has been up and down. I thought he looked obviously much better against Qatar, pretty good against Switzerland. But he's such a clinical finisher. And when he's on his game, most teams don't have an answer for him. Canada are a strong defensive team. They defend in a really compact manner. It's just about making the most of their chances, right? And, Jonathan David has scored really important goals for Canada before. And I think if he gets one against South Africa, they'll be off to the races.